The sap has been flowing pretty steadily here now, particularly the past couple of days. The temperatures have risen into the low 40s. So I've been collecting a lot of sap, producing a lot of syrup. So I figured I'd show you the process now of how we go about making syrup. You saw the other day I put the buckets up onto the taps, or spiles as they're known, and you can probably see the sap dripping now. Show you what we got here. This is just one day, so that's about 2 gallons worth. It's about 2.5 gallon bucket or so, maybe 2 gallons. So what we'll do is we'll take it over to the propane stove, and we'll get it fired up. So I have the propane burner set up on my grill, and that was originally to stop the drafts, because the first time I did this, the wind was blowing so hard that it kept blowing out the flame. So I put it up onto my grill just to stop the drafts from coming through, and it's worked out great. This particular brand is called Bayou Classic, and it's terrific. Comes with everything you need. And I'll link to it down below so you can see exactly which one I've got. But it's perfect, and it makes quick work of the processing part. What we're going to be doing is evaporating the sap. Sap is mostly water, so we need to get rid of the water and just leave the sugar content behind. So that's what we do here. We burn off the water, and then what's resulting is the precursor to sap. So let me take you down here onto the propane tank. This, just open up one turn, and then you've got the flow regulator right here. So this you can just turn just a little bit like that, and then using a electronic match. There we go. And that lights that up just like that. And then, of course, just by opening up this valve, you can hear it really going, and you can see it's really blowing right now. Turn that back down for a minute, and really conserves a lot of gas. Like, this is hardly open at all. It's barely open, and that's perfect for doing the sap. So I strain my sap one time just before I start this whole process. I run it through a nut milk bag. It's a fabric bag that you can make like almond milk and cashew milk and stuff like that. But it helps just sift out the any debris that might have gotten into the sap when it was on the tree. So I use one of these restaurant style pans. It's got a large surface then. It makes evaporation much quicker than if you use, say, a big deep bucket, and it'll take a lot longer to do that. By having this large surface, the water evaporates pretty quickly. I'll be done with this batch in about an hour. You'll see online, I mean, people doing a lot more, a lot larger quantities, but it'll take them all day. And using like a wood stove or something, using the propane tank makes very quick work of it. So I take the pan and put it right and center it on top of the burner. And then what I do is I open up that flame all the way. And what that does is it gets it to a boiling point very quickly. In less than 10 minutes, this will be boiling, at which time I'll then turn down the flame and just have it at a low boil at that point. And as I said, in about an hour's time after that, it'll be done. And it's been a little bit longer than 10 minutes, but you can see the sap is boiling away. So what I'm going to do is just turn down that regulator. And you can see it's still boiling away. Now all this foam over here, what I do is I've got this fine mesh strainer, and I just come in and I just pick off the foam and then get rid of it. It's just another method of getting rid of the impurities in the sap so that the sap is as clean and impurity free as possible. I said this will go for about an hour. It'll boil like this, and you can already tell from where I had it to where it is now. Let's see if I can show you. It's boiled down from about there down to there already, and in about an hour's time it'll be less than 1/4 of an inch deep, and they'll start to turn an amber color, the color of syrup that you've seen. And just before it starts to burn, I'll take it off the heat. I'll strain it through the nut milk bag, and it'll be ready then to go to its final boil, which will be done inside the kitchen. You don't want to do this in your house. I mean, you can, but if you don't mind, I guess if you don't mind your house smelling like syrup all day long, it's not a problem. But you also have the the heat from the burner. So it's best doing this outside and then just bring it inside for the final boil, which I found to come pretty quick. It only takes a couple of minutes at that point. And you strain it again, and you have syrup. So when this is ready to be turned off, we'll come back and we'll see how it's going. Just to show you the progress, closing in on an hour, and you can see the the depth is really going down. We're getting close. Might be able to tell it's just starting to turn an amber color now. So we'll keep an eye on it, and we don't want it to burn. But as it gets a little bit lower, we'll take it off the heat and strain it. While we're waiting for the sap to finish evaporating, a few utensils we need to do this next part is an oven mitt, because that pan is damn hot. And this is the nut milk bag, which I strain the sap through, and then just a container to put it in for the time being. But this is just a cloth bag, and it catches all the larger debris anyway. We're very close now to the end of the process, and if I tilt this pan, you can see that the syrup with the sap is starting to really turn that darker amber color now. And you'll see on the internet a lot of times people saying to pour more sap into this now, but from what I've heard, that's actually not a good idea. I'm not sure of the reasons why, but it made sense to me, so I don't do that. So I take off a portion like this, I'll pour it off, and then I'll pour new sap in and boil a new sample. But as I said, we're getting close to the finishing point here. Okay, I think the sap is ready. So I'm going to turn off the heat. I'll pick up the pan using the glove. Okay, so I pick up the sap, and you can see it's a really nice golden color, and I start pouring it through the bag. And now I just let it drain through. And as you can see, it already looks like syrup. Now, now what I'm going to do is take another batch of sap, pour it into the pan, and process it. That's a 5-gallon bucket. That's a 5-gallon bucket there. So it's going to take us a couple of things. This takes about 2 gallons plus. It's going to take us another 2 evaporations to work through that bucket. So now I'll pour it in and begin again. Okay, we've collected a couple of batches of sap that have been evaporated down into a pre-syrup. And we're going to pour this into the pan and do the final boil on it, which will do the final evaporation and get us down to the sugar level of the syrup that we want. And once we're done here, we're going to move over to this contraption to strain the syrup and remove all the sediment that might be in there. The sediment is called niter. It's like a sand that's in the syrup, and you want to remove that. Try to get it as clear as possible. So I'm using paint filters, and it's got a fine mesh screen at the bottom, and I'll be straining it into this canning jar, and then I'll transfer it into smaller containers after it's done being filtered. I'll also be using a candy thermometer to determine when the syrup is done. You want to go from the boil point of the syrup and then go about 7 degrees above that, which should be around 220 degrees, give or take. While we're waiting for the syrup to start boiling, my contraption here is actually a paint strainer for a high pressure sprayer, paint sprayer. And I use this as a way to hold the strainer and be able to pour the syrup into it. So it's getting very close. Okay, I'll just turn down the temperature a little bit and stick the thermometer in. So it's at about 212 right now. Wow, that tastes really good. The longer you boil it, the darker it will get, because the sugars will be caramelizing. And I think it's starting to get closer to where I want it to be. All right, I think I'm gonna go with that. And now it says it's about 220. And now you need it to be very hot when you run it through the strainer. As you can see, I put the nut milk bag in there. So. And by being very liquid and hot, it flows easily through the strainers and into the container. Just to show the clarity, I've got a flashlight that I'm shining through here, and you can see this syrup is very, very clear. See those bubbles floating on top from underneath, all the way to the other side. this will be a nice syrup. I'm going to show you inside here. You'll see down there in the bottom, there's like that grit down there. That's the niter. That's the niter. And that's what is like the sand that's in the syrup. And then from here, I'll transfer that into small containers like this. And then I'll get a screw-on lid for it. And that's the process. I collect the sap every day. I get about 5 to 7 gallons depending on the temperatures and how much the sap is flowing. I then spend a couple hours boiling it down, bottling it, and storing it away. So this is my first year doing it, and very simple process, fun, and you get a nice tasty product out of it. All right, if you like what you see, give the video a thumbs up and consider subscribing to the channel if you don't already do so. And hit that alarm button, and that way you'll be notified right away when videos like this are posted. And if you've made maple syrup and you've got some tips or tricks that you can pass along, leave them down in the comments section below. Okay, thanks for watching.